The following program is intended for mature audiences.
TBS, America's #1 independent television network, presents the following sports exclusive.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
The absolute worst!
Does it feel pretty good?
Feels pretty goddamn good, yeah.
Mike pointed out that this is the first Super Bowl representative we've had from the gas compound.
I was thinking about that. I guess you're the only other one, Greg, that's had any teams in the championship at any point during our run, right?
Depending on how we look at it, I think we should only count Andy's for when he was actually a full-time part of the show. So we got the Blackhawks Cup from Andy.
Oh, sure, right.
Okay. Then the Cavs won the title.
Mm-hmm. You had the Indians in the World Series.
Ohio State won the national championship.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's it. So you putting you in the Rams in the Super Bowl, so at least we've got an NFC championship banner to hang up now.
Yeah. We've got a title from every major conference. All of us have contributed, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Well, maybe the Maple Leafs this year get us another cup.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
That's your best shot.
I don't think that I'm going to be putting that Stanley Cup on the shelf at the Bass Compound anytime soon.
One day.
How long you plan on doing this show anyway, man?
I mean, I don't know. But
I like my chances of sticking a Brown Super Bowl trophy up there better, to be honest.
Probably.
Lots of time to worry about that. Yeah, we can worry about hockey here in a few weeks. We've got to talk a little National Football League here.
I think we should start with the biggest story. The National Football Conference champion Los Angeles Rams winning the National Football Conference championship.
Means National Conference champion participant New Orleans Saints.
Printing that banner up right now.
Look, I can't tell you how ecstatic I am that the Rams won. Having them complete that comeback and and get that drive there at the end of the game to tie it again, the interception in overtime, I will forever remember the feeling and the moment of watching that 57-yarder go straight down the pike. I was thinking about it. As much as I was into the Colts when they made that run to the Super Bowl, it's so different when it's your home football team.
Absolutely.
And just following this team every single day and being there for it, it's a different experience. And I still get plenty of people that are like, hey, weren't you a Colts fan? Ha ha. And it's like, yeah, but it's a different thing. And so to see my home team,
right,
the Los Angeles Rams, complete a comeback and go on to the Super Bowl, that still hasn't set in with me that the Los Angeles Rams are going to the Super Bowl.
I think it was on Twitter. One of your buddies was kind of giving you a little bit of a hard time about the Colts thing.
Yeah.
And I just came in and said, look, any LA fan that switched to the Rams, that's totally legit. I don't care who you were a fan of or for how long. When that team came back to Los Angeles, you get a free pass to come back to them if you want to. No questions asked. Because you're right. It is so much different when it's the hometown team. I mean, for as much as I've bashed and ridiculed the Browns since they came back, when they got good this year, you can't help yourself.
I literally haven't felt this way about a sports team since the 07 Ducks. And again, for this to happen just kind of so quickly, but it's not like I just started rooting for them because they're good. I started rooting for them because they came back.
No, and anybody that listens to the show knows that. I mean, we talked about it when the move wasn't even official yet. And I remember asking you on the show, what are you going to do? And you said, I don't know yet. I said, I can tell you right now, you're going to be a Rams fan just to come to it and be done with it. I knew what was going to happen. When it's your hometown team, it makes all the difference. It really does.
The game as a whole was it's such a roller coaster.
I have been in games like that. Unfortunately, I've been on the wrong side of all of them, but I have been there. Yeah. I mean, that game so reminded me of the 86 title game between the Browns and the Broncos. Right down to the bad call aside.
Let's talk about the call because I have thoughts on the call. And I don't want to take any thunder away from you, Zach, but I figured, me not being a Los Angeles Rams fan, maybe I could.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be as I guess people couldn't accuse it of bias as much. But I just want to say Saints fans should shut the hell up, because that was without a doubt pass interference. But the Saints blew, what was it, a 13-point lead? 2. Sean McVay's play calling in the latter part of this game was
Sean Payton.
Pardon?
Sean Payton.
Yeah, Sean Payton. Was absolute dog shit. I dare say it was Andy Reid-esque. And finally, Drew Brees' interception in overtime. Yeah, that one call sucked. And you could arguably say it cost the Saints the game. But it was just one bad call. They had opportunities to win, and they didn't do it. They blew a double-digit lead. Their coach made terrible play calls, and they turned the ball over at a key moment in overtime. So anyone claiming that the Saints got screwed, I don't buy it.
Oh, they definitely got screwed, but that's not why they lost the game. They got screwed, no question about it. But people forget, because it's easy to forget these things in the bright lights of the big, bad missed call. The Saints got the ball first in overtime. And, it was a horrible call. And we need to talk about maybe changing the rules a little bit so that doesn't happen ever again, because it's a bad look for the NFL. But I'm with you, Mike. I don't think that's why the Saints lost the game. It didn't help, that's for sure. But and from the position they were in to where they got to be at that point when that call happened, that's all on them. I don't take a thing away from the Rams. They capitalized when the Saints couldn't. That's just the way it goes. That's life.
I am sympathetic to the Saints. Because
I am too. But
when they had that, when Ted Ginn caught that big play down to the 19, I think it was, game's over. They're going to run it down. They're going to kick the field goal, and that's going to be the end of it. The play calling after that point, I don't get it. The play calling made sense up until that point, because it's like you're trying to get downfield. But the instant they got within range, I guess they were still trying to look for the touchdown. But at that point, you're in full control of what's happening. The Rams only have 2 timeouts. You can run the clock down, and at best, the Rams get the ball back with 16 seconds or so left in a 3-point deficit. And they throw on first down. Second down is the run. Or I think it was 3 straight throws. Once they got into that point,
they threw a screen pass to Ingram that got blown up, and they lost 6 yards on it.
Yeah, and then they tried the pass out there on the wheel, and yes, there's no equivocating about it. That was a pass interference call. He straight up tackled that dude. Head-to-head contact, tackled him with the ball 2 feet away from him.
He straight up NFL blitzed him.
And it was like that meme I sent with Hulk Hogan doing the leg drop on him. I mean, it might as well have been that.
Yeah, and Roby Coleman after the game even admitted, I thought I was getting burned for the touchdown. He admitted to doing it. We all know it's pass interference.
But you know what, though? And defensive backs do that, because a PI call is better than giving up an automatic touchdown. I saw that idiot Peter King arguing that, well, he should have just let them score if they were going to do that. I don't care what anybody says. No. And I know that, in video games and in armchair quarterbacking, it's easy to go, well, just let them score, then you'll have time. You don't know what the fuck's going to happen if you let them score. You might fumble the next play. You never, ever do that. Never in a million years.
There are plenty of things that the Saints did throughout the game that lost them that. But the reason that this play is going to be talked about forever is because if that gets called properly, the Rams lose. The game's the Saints will get the ball at the whatever it was. The Rams will have no time. The Saints kick a chip shot field goal, and that's the end of the game.
Look, the Saints got screwed on that call, and yes, it probably did cost them the game at that point. But there were a lot of things that got them to that point where that play could cost them the game. And if no one's going to blame any of that, then they can't blame it entirely on this either. That's what I'm saying.
And there's plenty, and like you said, and I think I put it in a post, there are plenty of these things that happen throughout the game. It's just the time and situation dictated that this is a bigger call. There was one play where Jared Goff is running towards he was a little indecisive. He could have ran
the play you're talking about earlier
and got into the end zone. But he kind of hesitates and stutters, and as he's getting tackled, clear face mask. not called. There was another face mask earlier against the Rams that wasn't called either. And hell, you want to go all the way back to week 9 when these two teams played. The Rams were making that big comeback, and they had the chance to win the game in New Orleans back then, and then this game would have been played in L.A., and they had the fake punt attempt. Johnny Hecker runs for it. On every replay that I saw and other people saw, the ball crossed the first down line. The officials spot it horribly. They review it, put the ball still at the wrong spot, and the Rams don't get that. The Saints end up winning that game. And so, not to relitigate any of these, but there are calls throughout the game that change the course of how these things play out. It just so happens this one went at the biggest time. And then beyond that, all that did, it didn't lose the game for the Saints. That game did not, that call did not give the Rams the game.
No.
The Rams still had to go down the field and tie the game, which they did. And then when you're still tied and you're going in overtime, you get the ball first, Saints. You're in control. You see how many of these games end on the first possession. You saw the Patriots do it later that night. The Rams made a play, got in, got contact on Breeze. The ball goes up in the air. The DB falls down.
Yeah,
and the ball lands in his stomach while he's lying down. That play could have gone any which direction too. And then the Rams go, and not to mention the kick they made, it wasn't exactly a chip shot.
No.
It was a 57-yarder.
Which is, again, why I have no – well, there are a few reasons I don't have any sympathy for the Saints. And for the reasons I mentioned, terrible play calling, blown 13-point lead, Breeze's interception. I mean, at the end of the day, you lose – I mean, you have the ball first in overtime, and I think that's why, and this is kind of going to bleed into the discussion we're going to have later about the Patriots and the AFC title game. But I think this is why Tom Brady is considered the greatest of all time, because Drew Brees, no slouch at quarterback, one of the best of his generation, put him in a conference championship game in overtime. He threw a pick and cost his team the game. Tom Brady was cold, calculating, on target, and did everything he needed to do in the exact same situation. So, there's that, which is why, I think without question, Tom Brady is better than Drew Brees without a shadow of a doubt. But another thing that I wanted to say about this, why I feel no sympathy for the Saints, is honestly because I'm kind of over Drew Brees' aw shucks act. And
former San Diego Charger Drew Brees.
I know. But also another thing that I'm over is just the Saints in general. I'm still pissed off at the whole Bounding Gate thing. I think that was just really scummy, and I think that it's kind of bullshit that people kind of give that team a pass over that stuff.
Considering that stuff led directly to Brett Favre getting beat to all hell in the NFC title game that sent the Saints to that Super Bowl win that they ended up.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And so as far as I'm concerned, that was a blown pass interference call, but one, there's no guarantee that wins them the game. 2, they blew their chances, and 3, it's just karma. It's karma, bitch. Deal with it.
Well, I want to go back. Zach, you were talking about plays that take place throughout the game that are key that people forget because of the timing. And I'm going to go back to the 87 AFC Championship between the Browns and the Broncos, the fumble game. The Browns were losing that game 14-3. And the Broncos had the ball early in the third quarter, and it was just one of those quick out passes from the Broncos' own 15-yard line. The Frank Minifield of the Browns slips, and I think it was Vance Johnson goes 85 yards for a touchdown. That's the difference in that game. That was the play that made all the difference, because if that play doesn't happen, then everything else plays out the same. The Browns go in, and they're never going for the tying touchdown, blah, blah, blah. But the point being is that play was every bit as important as the fumble at the end. So, I have some sympathy for the Saints fans. I get it. I've been there. I've had my heart ripped out more times than I care to talk about. But you can't look at just that one play and say that's why we lost, because that's not why you lost. You lost because you blew a 13-point lead. The Rams, like Zach said, still had to come down and still had to make the field goal to tie the game, which was no chip shot. That one was like a 43-yarder, I think. And then a 57-yarder to win it in overtime after you had the ball first and your guy threw an interception. It wasn't like that play just ended the game. There were lots of opportunities there, and you couldn't capitalize on any of them. You couldn't capitalize. One more touchdown, one more field goal with that 13-point lead, you don't have to worry about it. It's a done deal, and they couldn't do it. So I get it. The call was terrible, one of the worst, probably the worst I've ever seen, but that's not the sole reason that you lost. Sorry. And we're not going to make a lot of friends with Saints fans, but that's the way it goes. You got to call them the way you see them.
Yeah. And honestly, like, as bad as I feel about it, I don't feel that bad.
No.
Like,
your guys still had to do all the other stuff. I guarantee you,
for the rest of time, if I ever run into a Saints fan, they will give a shit about this. I get it. I
do too.
I don't. If the Rams have an NFC title under the belt, if they go on to win the Super Bowl, I'm not going to be sitting there thinking, you know what though? The Saints really should have had this one. No, I am ecstatic that my team is going to the Super Bowl.
I still catch shit about the
as long as they're not cheating. Essentially, like it's not their fault. The refs didn't call it.
Right, and I still catch shit to this day from the 2002 Buckeyes win over the Miami Hurricanes because of that late flag on the interference call and all that in overtime. And my argument's always the same. It's like going into that game, I think the Buckeyes were 14-point underdogs. Maybe they were double-digit. I don't know if it was like all the way up to 14, but there was like, Miami's one of the greatest college football teams of all time, blah, 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 the whole bit. If you were that fucking good, the game should have never been close. So, spare me. If your team was so great and deserved that title, then why didn't you win 43-10 like everybody thought you were going to? So I don't even want to hear it. But with this or the Rams, like, it's the way it goes. I'm sure somewhere throughout the history of the Saints, there's been a game where they got a call and it got them a game they probably didn't deserve. And I'm not even saying the Rams didn't deserve it. They still had to capitalize on the opportunities given them. Now, if it was like, say if the score at that time was, what was the Saints going to tie for the field goal? Is that what they did? Or to take the lead?
It was to take the
at the end. It was to take the lead
on the play. So
yeah, it was tied 2020.
Okay. I completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, I'm with Mike. I agree that there's more to it than just that call. And it was a horrible call. I'm not even going to try to defend it for a second. There's just no way to do it.
Oh.
But there's more to the game than just that. You had the ball first in overtime. Drive down and score a touchdown. Don't blow a 13-point lead. Call smarter plays. Don't throw a screen pass and get it blown up for a 6-yard loss. You've got two pretty good running backs in Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. What the fuck are you doing throwing screen passes anyway? Especially that close in. Especially when you're trying to kill clock. What are you thinking?
And again, I'm just saying, to Drew Brees, he could have, you got the ball first in overtime, go down and score. The other guy who won the AFC title game did that. He didn't even give the other team a chance to get on the field. And you're supposedly one of the greatest of all time, Drew Brees. You go do it. But
to speak more to not necessarily the Saints blowing the game, but the Rams defense, for all of that I have given it trouble this year, when they needed it on Sunday,
oh yeah, it
came to play.
That's a point I wanted to bring up. I'm glad you mentioned that. Keep going, because I've got a whole thing I want to address with that.
Like the Rams are down 13-0, but not even the 13-0 part. So the Saints get the opening drive. They go. It's like they're marching down the field. Looks like they're going to score a touchdown. Defense holds, hold to a field goal. Jared Goff throws a bad interception, and I'm thinking, oh, this is the worst. This is all going to go to hell right now. This game's going to be lost in the first 5 minutes. Home to a field goal. Even when it's 13-0, the offense is still kind of sputtering. The defense kept this team in the game. And then late in the game, when the Saints are trying to stay ahead, you get those big plays by Sue, by Donald in the overtime. There was pressure on Breeze. When we talk about these bad play calls, sure, there were bad play calls, and the defense rose up to challenge them and stuffed the running attempts, stuff the screens. In overtime, they get the pressure on Breeze. They make the interception. For all that I derided the defense this year, they were there at the biggest moments for them and made a huge impact on this game to allow the offense to finally find its rhythm, get back in the game, and eventually win it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because this is something I wanted to bring up about the playoffs in general. What have we learned in the playoffs this year? It's a rhetorical question. I'll go ahead and answer it.
Sure.
For all the high-flying offense and all the 51-48 games and all that we had, what won in the playoffs this year? Defense and a running game. You saw it in every single game that was played in the playoffs. If you had defense and a running game, I mean, look what the Rams did to the Cowboys last week. Running game, playing good defense. The Saints-Rams yesterday, there was a lot of defense played in that game. And just, everybody was like after the big Chiefs-Rams game, this is the future of the NFL. Well, as we've seen, when you get into the playoffs, no, it's still pretty much the same two things it's always been, is that you've got to be able to run the ball to set up your play action, and you've got to be able to play defense. And that's why the two teams that are going to the Super Bowl are where they are. The Patriots lost the grip on the defense a little bit in the second half yesterday. But imagine if they hadn't played the first half defense the way they played it, they're not going to the Super Bowl today because the Chiefs are all over them. But they did it, and they shut them out in the first half, and that was all that mattered. That's all it took. So, yeah, you can talk about all the offense and the high-flying passing game and this and that and the other thing, but at the end of the day, when you want to win that ring, you got to have some defense and you got to have some running game. And the Rams defense showed up. Saints did too. They both played good defense yesterday.
Yeah, the defense showed up, and I think the thing that stood out for the Rams was that the running game actually kind of went away.
Yeah.
And as bad as Jared Goff started the game, the plays he made, particularly in that overtime, but the throws late in the game in the fourth quarter to get them back in it, to tie it up, he made some incredible throws, namely like that one to Brandon Cooks down the sideline. And then in overtime, right before the field goal, Jared Goff struggles under pressure. That's no secret. But two of his best throws of the day came while there were guys chasing him and he was running and there were dudes in his face. On back-to-back plays, he rolled out to the left and found, I think it was Gerald Everett, maybe it was Brandon Cooks, down the sideline, and they worked their way up. Next play, he rolls out to the right. There's a dude about to kill him, and he gets it out, right on time to Tyler Higbee, who moves down, gets a first down, and then they get into the field goal range. It was one of Goff's best games, not statistically, but just in the way that he hung in there. He didn't crumble under the pressure like he did against Chicago. He didn't crumble like he did and just kind of make bad mistakes like he did against Philly. He had the bad mistake early. It looked like a bad sign, but he stayed composed, fought through all the noise and all the whatever else was going on to make the plays when they needed them down the stretch, especially because the running game wasn't there and the defense was playing its heart out. Somebody needed to do something to get some points on the board, and Jared Goff made the plays with his arm.
Well, let's talk about that Rams defense a little bit. I'm looking at the stats from yesterday. Drew Brees, okay, this isn't a bad game. 26 for 42, 49, 2 touchdowns and an interception. They held the rushing
game. What's Michael Thomas's number?
What's that?
Well, what's Michael Thomas's number?
Michael Thomas, 4 receptions, 36 yards.
He caught 171 yards the last time they played.
Right. Alvin Kamara was their top receiver out of the backfield, 11 for 96. But the rushing game, you got to give credit to the Rams for this because that Saints rushing attack is tough. Ingram is tough, and Kamara is even better. Total of 46 yards on the ground for the Saints yesterday, or 50 or 48 yards.
Which is why, again, I don't buy this whole thing where the Saints say like, "Oh, we should have won." It's like you can't put. You go into a conference championship game and you put less than 100 rushing yards down on the field and you expect to win. Like, no, I mean, it's not impossible. You can do that, but
I think
you're not putting yourself in a good position if your vaunted running attack can't even hit 50 yards.
Well, that's the thing. And I think that the Rams defense is getting, I mean, Zach obviously caught it, but I think they're getting a little, overlooked in this whole thing. Because those are pretty good numbers against a Saints team that was, playing video game football for a good part of the year. But
and Ndamukong Suh's best game as a Ram, easily.
Yeah. As the season progressed, though, and I read this somewhere today, the Saints down the stretch were 4-3, averaging 19 points a game. So, I don't know that this was any great, wow, Team Destiny got screwed out of a Super Bowl here. It's kind of like you guys kind of stumbled in the first place. I mean, I'm not saying they're not a good team, but you got to give the Rams defense a lot of credit. And they made the clutch plays when they had to. And that's the end of it. I mean, bad call or not, I understand all that. But, I go back to what Mike brought up right off the top. 13-point deficit, you let it get away from you. Once that happens, all bets are off. Then it becomes your fault. The Rams defense played better than your defense did. The Rams were able to score points. You gave up 13 to let them get back in it. And I will say this, so that dime that he dropped towards the end of the first half that Goff threw to, I think it was Flex. Whoa. Yeah. That was a nice pass.
That was when he really started getting rolling, that final drive of the half, which was huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And really another thing that I say this a lot when we talk in depth about the Rams, but the special teams that this team has are bar none the best in the league. Because when this team the offense is struggling, they can't get anything done. It's 13-0. It's threatening like this game's going to go get out of hand, and it looks like they're going to go 3-and-out again. The fake punt, Johnny Hecker, probably the best throwing punter in the league, just throws a strike on 4th down, and they get moving. They only get the field goal, but that finally gave the Rams a little life that they didn't have up until that point. And then things went on from there. So
I'm looking at the box score now. Saints jumped out to a 13-0 lead in the first quarter. Okay,
yep.
Did not score a single point in the second quarter. Put up 1 touchdown in the third and a field goal in the fourth. I'm sorry, but you're not going to win a lot of titles playing like that. Not against a good football team. And the Rams they got it to 13-10 at the half. And, 7-6 and 3 in the overtime. But look, the Saints, the point being is that the Saints, one more score at any point before that overtime, and you don't have to be talking about any of this. One more score, that's all you needed, and you couldn't get it. You couldn't get one in the second quarter, not one. Not even a lousy field goal.
We need to institute some sort of. Do you want replay to be added for pass interference calls? Is that the next step?
I think coach's challenge might be a good way to go.
I think that you've got to be able to do something about that, because I don't know that you add any extra challenges. I think you keep everything the same, but I think some calls, there are people advocating make everything reviewable. That might be a bit much. But
because you can't just be legislating every holding call.
That's ridiculous. But I think that you should be allowed to use a challenge in a situation like that.
And I think especially because pass interference, with it being a spot foul as opposed to 5 or 10 yards.
Right. Yeah.
I think that makes that a little bit more impactful than any other penalty you could call.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just make it on pass interference. Maybe you add that to things that can be reviewed. I think field goals should be allowed to be reviewed.
Yeah, maybe if we want to expand it, pass interference, and I mean we'll talk about it in the Patriots game. Roughing the passer,
definitely.
I think that's one that you could. The problem with roughing the passer is there is some judgment to it.
Yeah.
But on things like.
But you know what though? They do judgment calls and targeting in college every week.
Yeah, that's true.
With the replay, every time that somebody gets called for targeting, they go to the replay and they decide. And sometimes I don't recall seeing too many where I thought, wow, they really blew that. That guy really wasn't targeting, and they gave it to him anyway. So. But something's got to be done, because the officiating was atrocious in both those games. I mean, it really was. It should have not played a role in either game, and it played too large of a role in both of them. Not just that, not just the obvious bad interference call. There was a play where one of the Saints defenders basically was holding the Rams player's jersey the whole way down the field. Never got called. It's just something's got to be done. But I think that things I don't know that you want to.
Following up after that, before the interception, there was a pass interference called on the Rams in overtime. When I looked at it, I'm like, really?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But it's one of those things where they're like, well, we screwed up on this one, so here's your makeup.
Those were my exact words. I said that's what's called a makeup call to my girlfriend when we were watching the game. I said that's a makeup call right there. That's what you just saw.
So the Rams get to move on. The NFC champion Los Angeles Rams move on to the Super Bowl for the first time as the Los Angeles franchise since 1979?
79.
76?
They were the last team to lose to that Pittsburgh dynasty of the 4 out of 6.
A third straight year that the Pats are going to the Super Bowl.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
How many times did we sit here and I said that I'm not. There's no way I'm picking against the Patriots, not because I think they're going to win, but just because this is what happens. We did it in the preseason. We did it, week 3 or whatever when Greg made his proclamation. We did it before the playoffs. We did it last week. We were like, yeah, the Chiefs could win it. And I'm like, yeah, they could.
Here's something for you.
They're not gonna.
Here's something for any Saints fans that might be listening. There's a worse call out there than that interference call yesterday because I made it. I'm the one that said the Patriots were done. So there's a worse call out there, believe me.
Tom Brady listened to that show. He got mad.
Did you guys catch the post-game comments on the broadcast?
Yeah,
about how pissed off he was. I'm like, hey, they're talking about me. Like somebody made him mad. And
yeah, no. Like Tom Brady listens to the show. He heard what you said, Greg. He got pissed off. He doubled his mineral water intake, and
hey, but you know what, guys? All joking aside, congratulations to the Patriots. Not often can a scrappy underdog like them make it to 8 straight AFC championship games.
Can the scrappy underdog 5-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady?
Yeah. Scrappy underdog that made it to 3 straight Super Bowls. And my girlfriend actually reminded me of something from earlier in the year. I don't know if you guys remember this, but when the Patriots played the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football earlier this year, NBC's pregame package was so funny to me because they played up Patrick Mahomes as like this silver spoon hybrid kid. Yeah, his dad was a major league pitcher, and everything's been handed to him, and he just was blessed with talent, and he didn't have to work for any of this. He's just in a great place in life. Whereas Tom Brady's had to work for everything he's ever gotten. He's such a scrappy, grinding underdog type. He's gonna fight for every. It's just like, do you listen to yourselves? Like, the man has 5 Super Bowls, and he's really just a.
The man has 5. The man has 5 Super Bowls and a lifestyle fitness regime book. By the way, it was a TB12 or something stupid like that.
The TB12 method. I'm going to pull up the full title because I think that's very important. It's very stupid. Something about maintaining championship performance.
But
sorry, the TB12 method: how to achieve a lifetime of sustained peak performance.
Nobody who gets that published is an underdog. You got to have some pretty significant sway to convince someone to publish that.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about these guys anymore.
I mean, look.
What is there to say?
If this was a case where in some alternate reality where Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes were rookies the same year, then I would buy that story because Patrick Mahomes, gifted with athletic talent, father was a major league pitcher, that kind of stuff, where high draft pick, Tom Brady taken in the 6th round, comes out of nowhere. Okay, I get that if we're
that was a storyline.
Yeah.
18 years ago.
Yeah, but no. In 2019, Tom Brady is not the scrappy underdog. Tom Brady is in the contention to be the greatest of all time and has 5 Super Bowls.
What was truly funny about Sunday's game was myself, everybody I was in the room with, I realized it as soon as it was happening, and I voiced it to everybody in the room, and they kind of were like, oh, no, you're right. Because we were talking about it in our group text, too. The instant the Chiefs score, and you look,
there's 2 minutes left.
2 minutes, 4 seconds left, 3 timeouts with the Pats down by a score. I just I was kind of sitting there yeah, okay, the Chiefs scored. And then the light bulb went off when I said, oh no. I have seen this movie before.
Yeah, no, you saw this movie. It's called Rogue One at the end, where Vader methodically makes his way down that alleyway, killing Rebel Alliance soldiers with ease as he just methodically takes what he wants.
It was like I had seen this movie 7 times and I knew the scene by heart. And I'm just watching it yep, dink and dunk, moving down the field, long past the Gronk. How much time's left? Oh my God, they still have time. They're moving the clock. Nobody's taking timeouts. What is happening?
Here's how it played out in the text. I have it.
A challenge.
I have it right here in front of me how it played out on the text, okay? Mahomes, Mike says Mahomes almost pulled a Favre. I said almost, he's just having fun out there. And then I went, oh no, they're going to leave Brady Christ too much time. Zach.
Brady Christ.
Uh-oh. And then I say, and we're set for the next chapter of the legend. Belichick with the tablet heave. He's about to unleash the lightning fingers. And then I post a picture of the Emperor. Get the pick ready, Mike. Mike says, Andy Reid doesn't know just what happened. Gronk smash. Get that pick teed up. The Jesus picture shows up. Fuck this. I'm done. And that was it.
Yeah.
Well, we already know that Bill Belichick hates those tablets that they make him use.
Yeah. But yeah, with 2 minutes left, if you were surprised by that, then you just haven't watched football in the last 20 years, is all I can figure.
Like, yeah. Tom Brady, it was just per. Tom Brady's like, yeah, all right. That's all right. I'll just do this again. It's not a big deal.
But how many times do the Chiefs think, they had the Edelman punt muff that wasn't. And I don't think he touched the ball. I don't think he touched the ball because
he didn't. But they looked at it like, is there a single arm hair that might have touched it at some point? And it's like
they Zapruder filmed it. They're like zooming in on his hands. Like, did the thumb touch it? I don't know.
And they're even like, oh, it looks like it bent. But I'm like, yeah, but look at the other angle again. Oh, but on this angle, it doesn't look like he's there. And then they go back to the side angle. But it looks like it touched the thumb. It's like, you just saw the other angle. Where
it was amazing how on one angle it looked like he touched it. On the next one, it's like his thumb was 3 feet away from it. I'm like, how in the fuck does that even happen?
Well, between that and between the catch that he made as part of the Pats comeback in Super Bowl 51, where he caught it, it freezes in midair an inch off the ground and he just grabs it. I'm convinced that Julian Edelman is in fact a robot who is tapped into the Matrix.
That play that on the punt muff, that was like that scene from Enterprise where the ship came on board and it was way bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. It was like that kind of Matrix shit. It was like, I don't even know what's going on here.
But yeah,
that play thankfully didn't ultimately matter to anything because
Edelman of all people.
Right, it went off Edelman's fingers 2 plays later.
The one that got me was that interception that the Chiefs thought they had then they fumbled out of bounds, and you're like, hey, and then it's like, nope, there's a flag, and you go,
You want to? This game was won and lost on one play, and it was a penalty. But it wasn't the referee's fault. The interception that was wiped out because of the encroachment.
Yeah.
The lining up offsides.
Yeah.
It blows my mind whenever this penalty is called because you are on the line. You see the football. You see that your head is next to the football. Back up.
Yeah.
Just take a half step back, especially because he didn't even interfere with the play. He was inconsequential to what happened, but he lined up a foot offside, and they had to throw the flag. Right. It's not like they could say, well, he didn't have any of the impacts, and we're not going to call it. No, you can't do over the line.
Yeah, you can't do that.
It's there.
I mean, because if you do that, you set a bad precedent, because now, we were talking earlier about how far do we want to go with replay. If you start getting into things where he had no impact on the play, we're going to be here all day. It's never going to end. I hate using the term slippery slope because it's a bullshit term, but you start talking about, well, he had no impact on the play, so we didn't call it. Well, that just becomes a whole new thing, and you just can't go that route. But what was I going to say about the Patriots? This game was so typical Patriots, and so typical Chiefs. Yep. Absolutely.
This is just the story of these two franchises over the last 20 years, played out over the course of 3 hours. It was amazing.
Like I said, I relived
in good and bad ways.
I relived the 80s Browns twice yesterday. The Rams Saints game, that was the 86 title game, and this one was 87. The big comeback, only to fall short at the end and get your heart ripped out again.
You want to talk about methodical, like Zach mentioned the Brady drive with 2 minutes left, but to me, it was the overtime drive because the Patriots win the coin toss, they get the ball, and it's just Tom Brady. He's just going down the field, just boom, boom, boom. Like there was
It didn't even look difficult.
No. And it felt exactly like the overtime drive they had in Super Bowl 51, right?
Well, yeah,
Where
you
it's
knew it
just
was
like,
over. You just knew it.
It's like, oh, they got the ball, all right, and they're going to, and now it's inevitable.
Once they got inside Kansas City's 25, you thought, this is it. There's no hope. I think I even texted, resistance is futile. You're just wasting your time.
When they were walking up to do the coin toss, I said to the group I was watching with, I'm like, yeah, but the coin has Patriots logos on both sides of it, right? And sure enough, they win the coin toss. It's like, okay, yep, here we go.
Well, you've got to at some point just go. It's just impressive that they were able to do this. I had a theory yesterday.
It's just infuriating as hell.
Oh, absolutely. But I had a theory yesterday. I wanted to run past you guys. If this exact team, Tom Brady, every single one of these guys shows up, but they aren't called by their names, and they're wearing San Francisco 49ers jerseys, I think the Chiefs win this game easily. I think there's something about it. You look across the line, and you see those silver helmets and the flying Elvis and the whole bit, and that's good for 10 points a game. I really believe that. It's like the fact that they're the Patriots gets in your head right out of the start, and that makes it tough. Like, I think that exact same talent, named differently with different uniforms on, I don't think the Chiefs have a tough time with. Because I'm going to go back to what I said about the Chargers game. I don't think the Patriots are as talented as the Chiefs are, but they're certainly coached better, and...
Well, I mean, Andy Reid, he didn't go full Reid, but he had a Reidish moment, the blown challenge.
Well, he went a little bit Andy Reid too at the end there because he should have called timeout way sooner than he did.
Yeah.
Well, that was speaking of challenges, that was the other thing that it's just like, of course it's the Patriots. This happens. They challenged the ball. They challenged twice in the span of what, like 3 minutes?
And they win both of them.
Yeah.
and then Andy Reid tries to challenge, and he loses a timeout, and it's just.
Well, at least he.
Well, I think you had a great line in our text chat, Greg, where you're like, Andy Reid looks like me trying to do calculus.
Yeah.
like Belichick is just like Jedi mind tricking him, and he's just like, I don't know what to do.
Right. It's just like, I don't know what's going on here, but I think the Chiefs will be back. I think Mahomes is a legit good player, but God, I think the hard part about this game was that it looked early like, well, okay, the Patriots are just not even going to play around here. They're just going to blow these guys out. And then the Chiefs start getting back into it, and you get that false hope. And I never really bought into it all the way because I thought, they get out by 2 touchdowns, I'll go, okay, there might be a shot here. But as long as this is back and forth thing, you have no chance. You are not going to win this game.
As long as the Pats were within a score, there was time on the clock.
Yep.
Again, it was just the instant they score, and you look up and you see 2:04 and 3 timeouts.
Yeah.
It's just, the Patriots have played us again. They knew what they needed at the end of the game. Like Belichick wasn't wasting his timeouts earlier. He didn't call it for anything. He called the challenges, but he knew he was going to win them, so he didn't waste his timeouts necessarily. And again, this is a game where Tom Brady threw an interception into the end zone, and he throws that interception to Edelman. It had the makings of when the Patriots lose in the playoffs, that's kind of what they look like when they lose.
Right.
But despite all that, they still had the ball with 2 minutes and 3 timeouts. And if you give Tom Brady that every single time, I think listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, I think he said that during last year's Super Bowl, they had the exact same amount of time on the clock. But the Eagles were able to get the strip sack and end it. Yeah. But I think but when you're watching that in real time last year, I think we all had the same reaction when they got the ball back.
Yeah.
This is a great effort by the Eagles, but it's over. The Patriots are going to go down and score. And it was just a miracle that they didn't really, because it was just such a flip of the script, a subversion of your expectation that we've seen them do this far too many times before. So when it didn't happen, it was amazing, except you go to now and it happens. Well, and then they get the ball first in overtime.
You can take
and there was an interesting stat that Cromerica looked up. The Patriots are Tom Brady and the Patriots are 3-0 in overtime games in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The opposing team has not gotten the ball on offense once in those 3 overtimes.
Yep. Yeah.
When the Patriots get the ball first in overtime, they score.
Yeah.
That's it.
There are, you can take your pick on which one you want to call the greatest of all time, whether it's Montana or Brady, but there are, in all my life of watching football, there are 2 quarterbacks I've seen where if they've got the ball, they're down by just a score, and there's time left on the clock, you're going to lose. Montana was the first guy, and Brady was the second, where it was just, you just said, you know what? We're done. And rare was the case where it didn't happen. I mean, Brady hasn't won them all. He hasn't done it every single time. But 85% still pretty fucking good. And the same with Montana. Montana didn't do it every time, but he did it 85% of the time.
Yeah.
He did it to the point where you were just saying, well, we're done. And when the Pats got the ball, and then in overtime, you just knew it. The Chiefs couldn't get off the field. It was just like, this is just a matter of waiting it out to see who scores the touchdown.
This is going to be their 9th Super Bowl.
Yeah, in 18 years. I think I said it during the preview that if you average it out, they go to the Super Bowl every other year in this run.
Tom Brady alone has more Super Bowl appearances than any other team in NFL history.
Right. Yep.
This is like the Patriots as a whole now will have 11 with the 2 they had before, right?
Right.
It's incredible. Like it. You can keep throwing Montana into the argument. I don't think there's an argument to be had anymore.
I only do because just because of the difference in the defensive rules between now and then. Yeah, that's why I'll always make that case that I think Montana would be every bit as capable of doing what Brady does now, and I'm thinking Brady probably would be just as good back then. But the difference is that Montana played against tougher defenses, et cetera, et cetera. And like I said, either one of them is fine to me. They're both the greatest quarterback of all time. Just depends on how you want to look at it. But I've only seen it twice. And it's these 2 guys, not Peyton Manning, not any of the others. These 2 guys. That's it.
This was a game that again had the setup of this is how when the Patriots do lose in the playoffs, this is how it goes.
Yeah,
they're on the road, they're in a hostile environment. Brady throws a couple interceptions. Things just don't look like they're working right, and it still didn't matter. And even the funniest, or maybe not the funniest, but the thing that just made me laugh because of course it happened was Rob Gronkowski's had a pretty rough year, all things considered.
He had a great game.
Who was their most important player in the fourth quarter in overtime?
Gronk!
Yep.
Just like Gronk catch ball, Gronk spike ball, Gronk win game. Just like
Gronk smash.
It's
I'm imagining
feeling of inevitability. It's just it's happening.
What was that huddle like? Okay, Gronk, I'm going to give you the ball. You give Gronk ball. Yes, Gronk, give ball. Gronk. All right. And that's just basically what I imagine it was like.
And I want to know why there isn't a team out there that said, you know what, we need Tony Romo as our defensive coordinator.
Because he actually was like, here's what they got to do.
Here's what's going to happen. And then it did.
Look, they're lining up Gronk. Here's what they got to watch Gronk. And then he would make a catch for like a first down.
I've already seen 4 stories that are like, teams are going to contact Tony Romo about being a coach now. It's like,
nah.
Okay. Nah.
No, I joke when I say that.
I think it's easier to do when there's no stakes.
Right.
When you're just a guy watching football and you just like diagramming football, it's different when you have to then,
Yeah, no, I'm only kidding when I say that because he knows what's going to happen before the play happens. But Awful Announcing did put out a poll on Twitter yesterday. If Romo has a good Super Bowl, will he be the best color analyst out there? It's like he already is. I think.
Tony Romo's fantastic. I love him.
He's great. I mean, Rare is the guy that I go into a game and go, oh, good, Romo's, he's calling the game. I mean, most of the time I don't really care. As long as it's not Zeppo fucking Barber, I don't really give a shit who it is. But when it's Romo, I'm happy to hear it. I'm glad because I love watching him do what he does.
The complaint I've heard is that he is, and I get it, that he can be a little exuberant where it's just kind of like, oh my God, football! And it's like, we know, Tony, you can dial it down a notch. You love football, and you show us every week. We get it.
I would rather have that, though, than, Joe Buck no-selling one of the greatest catches in the history of football.
Yes.
Manning drops back, and he lets it go, and there's a catch.
I had the same complaint about Joe Buck. Joe Buck is much better now.
Oh,
Yes.
he's great now. Great now. One of my favorites.
Again, this is something that Tim has brought up, but, Troy Aikman, he is so forgettable. Mm-hmm. He brings you absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that. I think what you're confusing is that, or not confusing necessarily, but Aikman's still calling a game like they were called, say, 10, 12 years ago. And that's not how it works anymore. He's good at it, but it doesn't fit in the style of today's broadcast, if that makes sense. Romo is clearly, he's the guy now. This is the standard bearer for how games are going to be called going forward.
Troy Aikman is very forgettable, but I'd rather have him and Joe Buck than what I consider the worst primetime team, which is Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels.
Thank you.
I'm so over them.
Oh, my God. Al Michaels especially. And look, I think this guy used to be the gold standard of broadcasting. I can't stand listening to him anymore. I can't. And I tell you, I understand, Zach, that Aikman doesn't do anything memorable. But damn it, those two are solid together, and it's an enjoyable experience to listen to them. I don't need to learn anything. I just want to be entertained, and they do that for me. But I'm with you, Mike. Michaels and Collinsworth, trying to move forward.
All of these teams have stuff that I would like to kind of jumble around.
Yeah.
I love Buck, don't like Aikman. I love Tony Romo. Jim Nantz is a little too...
See, that's my point. Like with Nantz, he's still calling games in the old school style too. Where Buck, I think, has upped his game to the current style. You put him and Romo together, that would be fantastic, I think.
Because Romo kind of gets a little excited and a little out of control, and Joe Buck's or Jim Nantz is trying to be the fun guy with him. And it
just doesn't work.
Jim, look, you're a square, in every positive. There's just no thing to make you be cool. You're Jim Nantz.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're great on the Masters. You're fine on the NCAA tournament, despite your pre-written lines. The Butler Bulldogs are the top dog. Yeah, great.
And what is the fuck is that deal with him giving his tie away at the end of the Final Four?
I don't know.
I mean, you guys know about that, right?
It's an old suburban white guy dad thing to do.
But it's not like he he carried on the tradition from Dick Vitale or somebody. It's just something that he does. And I read some story about it, and some of the guys, he would come up and go, "Here's my tie," and they'd be like, "What the fuck is this?" They didn't even know what was going on. But I don't want to digress into all that. But I just find the whole thing.
But it's
odd.
And I, despite your misgivings, I still think Al and Chris are. Al Michaels is still my gold standard. I can't. He's my guy. I love Al, and Chris Collinsworth is.
I think Collinsworth is solid.
He's up and down. Well, Collinsworth is good, but then he's also here's a guy that's doing this, and here's a guy doing that. And it's yeah, okay, Chris. He's kind of like that middle ground between Romo and Aikman, where he's trying to call it like an old school guy, but he's also really excited to talk to you about football. So he kind of strides the middle fine.
I'm just kind of over them. I'm kind of sick of Chris Collinsworth in general. I don't know what it is about him. I just don't like the dude's face, I guess is the best way to put it. It's just I just don't like him.
With me, with Al Michaels, it's because it's he calls games now like he knows he's Al Michaels.
Mm-hmm.
Now he has
to see that.
He's got to be Al Michaels, and that lost me. But I've always been a Buck defender, even back when people hated him. I think that my favorite is Joe Buck as far as the play-by-play. Romo, clearly the best color guy out there. He's just fun to listen to, and he knows his shit cold.
None of them will ever be as good, though, as Snoop Dogg calling hockey.
Oh, my God. That was the greatest thing ever. Greatest thing ever.
What's number 3's name? Dion Phaneuf. Go get him, Dion.
I like him. I like Dion.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't know how much more you want to get into about the Patriots. I mean, they did it again.
Well, if you want to talk about the Patriots, I just linked to you guys the something from the TB12 online store.
Well, speaking of the
signed limited edition of the TB12 method It's a limited edition signed by Tom Brady. Goes for $350.
Yeah, they can keep that. No, thank you.
With a watercolored portrait of Tom Brady.
Not until they put the Jesus Brady picture on there. Maybe I'm thinking about it. If I could get an autograph one of those, that I might do. Saint Brady, Brady Christ, whatever we're calling him these days.
Yeah.
But God though, man. I mean, you get tired of seeing it, but fuck that. You just got to be good to be able to pull that off every single time. And I guess the one thing I would take away from it is that they are beatable in the Super Bowl. I mean, their record is, they've been there a lot, and that's pretty impressive in its own right. But their record in the Super Bowl is just kind of okay. What are they, like 6-4 or something like that?
The Pats?
It depends. Are we counting like the Patriots as a franchise or just the Brady?
Let's just go with the Brady era, which has been
They're 5-3 with
5-3. So I mean that again, that's 8 Super Bowls and you won 5 of them. That's hardly anything to sneeze at. But the point is that they aren't invincible once they get to the Super Bowl. You can take them.
Well, the thing about it is that thing that makes me concerned for the Rams, and I really want the Rams to win this because I think it would be such a poetic end to the Patriots dynasty, and I think it would be such a great thing for the team and the city of Los Angeles if the Rams won this. But the thing that concerns me...
And the death of the Chargers.
Well, look, that already happened, all right?
Yeah, that's true.
This isn't going to make... Like, honestly, it's dead.
Yeah, the NFC champion Los Angeles Rams have nothing to deal with the Carson Chargers of Costa Mesa.
But the thing that... But, like, honestly, the thing that concerns me about the Rams is that, like... Last year, it took like a superhuman Nick Foles channeling Russell Wilson, and like as Zach said, a miracle strip sack on what looked like was going to be like another game-winning Brady drive and even then, when the Eagles kicked a field goal and made it an 8-point game, even then Brady still had a shot, right? Because like even then it was just like he could still do it. So like it took like all of the stars aligning for the Eagles to win.
I would say that about all 3 of the Patriots' losses have been kind of like efforts.
I was just thinking that because you take the Tyree catch, which was and then there was
Tyree catch, the Mario Manningham catch.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Look, when the Patriots lose, it's not like they're getting blown out in any of these games. It's not like. When you say they can be had, sure, if you play your absolute best.
If you play a perfect game and get lucky, then you can win.
But I do think, though, that going into this, the Rams are a better team than the Eagles were last year.
Yeah.
But I've also watched this Patriots team, and I don't mean anything racial by this, but let's just be honest about it. They're taking a bunch of little white guys out there with Tom Brady, and they're just kicking the shit out of everybody.
Look. The one thing that kind of has me happy about the Patriots is the fact that Julian Edelman, I think, is the most accomplished Jewish athlete since Sandy Koufax.
Probably.
Not that there's been a lot of competition in this regard.
Well, Sean Green was pretty good.
Sean Green was good, but Sean Green never won a World Series. I'm pretty sure.
But my point is, though, I mean,
we looked all that up once. It was pretty good.
But 5'10" white wide receivers are out there playing against.
Look.
Oh, sure.
Look. No one else but Bill Belichick thought to like scour the NCAA lacrosse scene. All right, so
and it worked out for him. I mean, that Hogan kid made a hell of a catch yesterday.
Yeah, he made a couple catches.
And Edelman. I mean, you could say, look, that dude's just tough. I mean, he'll go out there and just get the shit knocked out of him.
Plus, I'm pretty sure he's a robot because he seems to be able to like control the Matrix.
Yeah, he just gets up and walks away, and it's like, let's do it again. It's just. I don't know. You look at that team, and
it's like Bill Belichick.
How do they do it?
It's like Robert Kraft went to Bill Belichick. It's like, Bill, you traded away or drove away all of our wide receivers. What are you going to do? He's like, don't worry, Robert. I have a plan. It's like, where are you going to get him?
Get me the Hobart lacrosse team on the phone.
Hell, one of the receivers, the top receivers, are going to play in the next game. They traded away Brandon Cooks. The Rams got him for a first-round pick this year. It was just like...
Well, see, that's the thing. If I'm Coach. If I'm a coach in the National Football League and Bill Belichick offers to trade me someone, I'm not taking it.
No. Hell no.
I'm like, no. I'm not falling for your game.
No, he could call up and go, okay, here's what I'm going to offer you: Brady and Gronkowski and Edelman and Hogan for your 6th round pick. And you're going, no, I'm sorry, I don't want that deal because
I ate for that 6th round pick.
Because the other GM says, yes, I'll take it. Then they come in, Coach, we have some news to announce. Oh, okay. What is it? How'd they all do? Well, Tom Brady has stage 4 liver cancer.
Right.
What?
And the guy that he picks in the 6th round is going to be like some superstar linebacker in 2 years. And you're just going, no, thanks. I'm still amazed people still trade with him. Because when you want to talk about mind-fucking people, he really does it with the trades.
Hey, at the very least, this Rams one is one that I could say has worked out for us. I would think the Patriots would like to have a top-line wide receiver still, but
shit, they don't care.
Right, it doesn't matter. They're still here.
For all we know, like, everyone was saying, it's like, oh, they forced him to trade Garoppolo. He didn't want to. Well, Garoppolo got hurt. Like, who the hell knows how that's going to out long run. Like, everyone's saying, like, oh, that saved the 49ers. For all we know, Garoppolo's going to come back and not be who he used to be. Because we've seen that before. RG3 is an example of, like, really top-end talent who they get hurt and they're never the same afterwards. So who the hell knows? Again, if I were a head coach in the NFL and Bill Belichick was offering me a trade, I'd be no. Like I'd tell my secretary, like, just screen his calls and don't forward them to me.
Yeah, I mean, I know that people think I'm just, like hanging on to the old school shit, saying that Brady and Montana are, essentially the same. But I will say this: there is no coach ever in the history of football that's better than Bill Belichick. I don't think there's anybody that's even close.
Oh no, not even. Like I think we lightly touched on this before, but you name all the greats: your Bill Walshes, your Chuck Knowles, Tom Landry's, Vince Lombardi's. It doesn't stack up.
No, I mean, Chuck Noll had a great run with the Steelers. There's no question about it. 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, 2 repeats.
Yeah.
But
honestly, I think the only guys that compare to him are probably guys like Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
Yeah, maybe.
And there's no way to really compare it because it's such different levels.
But to do what he's done, and like I said, you look at that team. And I still say talent for talent, right down the line, the Chargers are more talented. I think the Chiefs are more talented, but the Patriots are just better. If that, it makes, it's like it's so, like that shouldn't be. Like they have more talent, they should be the better team, but they're not. Belichick is able to take all those parts, and he gets the parts from like a 72, Dodge pickup and ends up making a Corvette out of it somehow. I don't know how he does it, but he does. And it's just amazing to watch. That team is so well coached. And just so disciplined, and they never, ever seem to be worried about anything. You never see them looking at it. They never seem desperate, ever. It's just like, we're just going to do what we do. And that's that. And then they do it. And it's impressive as hell to watch. You get frustrated after a while, but I don't know. I've never seen anything like it in all the years I've watched sports. I've never seen a team do this for this long at the level they've done it. And... yeah. I mean, God, it's like I said, the Super Bowl basically every other year since the first year they went in the Brady-Belichick era.
My last note, I just want to leave everybody with this to remind them a thought to think to run through your heads for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just so everybody knows, Tom Brady kisses his children on the mouth. So
okay, that's weird.
When you're trying to make your decisions of who to root for over the next 2 weeks, Tom Brady kisses his kids on the mouth. All
right, well, if that's all we got, guys, let's wrap it up, and we'll come back next week and do some prop bets and make our official picks and maybe talk about some other stuff that's happening in sports besides the NFL.
Well, what are you talking about, Greg? The Pro Bowl is next week. We're going to have...
Oh, of course. How could I forget?
Wall-to-wall Pro Bowl coverage.
How could I forget?
You're home for Pro Bowl coverage.
And with that, folks, follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. Subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube. And if you're over 60 and you still like to know about the show, you can also find us on Facebook. We will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.
Go Rams!
Go Rams!
Go Rams!